This is the story of the biggest muscles in the world, how they keep getting bigger and why people want them.
Bigorexia is a term that was actually coined by bodybuilders themselves, and I adopted it from them. And what it refers to is sort of a reverse case of anorexia nervosa.
Dr. Harrison Pope is the world's leading authority on male body image issues. His 2 decades of research have produced startling new revelations.
I believe, and we have written about this in our scientific papers, that bigorexia, or what we call technically muscle dysmorphia, is a sort of obsessive-compulsive disorder. It seems to me that this phenomenon of bigorexia is particularly prevalent in guys who get into competitive bodybuilding and use anabolic steroids. These are guys who will be very large and muscular, but who look at themselves in the mirror and still think that they look too small or too wimpy. I was talking to my young daughter who was working at the computer one night, and I said, well, what are you doing? And she said, well, I'm doing my Barbie project. And I said, well, what is your Barbie project? And she said, well, if Barbie were the height of an adult woman, she'd have a 16-inch waist, and that's why women are all preoccupied that they're not thin enough. And so it occurred to me that there might be an equivalent of that for men. So here came on the market. You know, a perfectly normal-looking guy. And then here is G.I. Joe from the 1990s, who, as you can see, has now been spending serious time at the gym, has a full 6-pack of abdominals, 16.5-inch arms, and even a slightly mean expression on his face. So that these, I think, are a testimony to the sort of increasing emphasis on male body image that has happened over this span of time. And it's not confined just to G.I. Joe, either. Take a look, for example, at Luke Skywalker. This is Luke Skywalker at the time that the original Star Wars movie came out in 1980. And here, by comparison, is Luke Skywalker when Star Wars was reissued 16 years later in 1996. And it's even said anecdotally that Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, upon picking up the 1996 version of himself, was said to have remarked, "Good God, they've put me on steroids."
Nowadays, people are expecting their heroes to be bigger than life.
In the 21st century, the male physique is being taken to ever greater extremes. But how?
I'm in the gym at 5 o'clock every morning, training for 2.5 hours, home, breakfast, little boy to school, back to the gym, then again, the same again, another 2.5 hours. I consume 7, 8, 9, 10,000 calories a day. Breakfast I'd have sort of like 200 grams of oats, 20 scrambled eggs, 2 hours later 2 chicken breasts and rice, then I'd have another protein shake, then I'd train, another protein shake, then I'd have some steak and potatoes, then I'd have another tuna and pasta, and then I'd have another 15 eggs before I went to bed. Early to bed every night, religious dieting, 24/7, 7 days a week.
We went to the restaurant where all the ordinary people were sitting with
big steak, scrambled eggs,
6 eggs over each.
The big steak, and I want a tuna omelet.
And a tuna omelet?
Yeah.
Oh, look what he's eating. He's eating 3 hamburgers in one shot. Oh, God, well, who are there's these gladiators? I mean, they couldn't figure it out who we were, you know? And we love that kind of a scene, you know, to shock people.
Show them! Come on!
This is a hardcore world. After months of consuming 12,000 calories a day, 4 times the daily intake of an average man, competitive bodybuilders often dehydrate themselves the week before the show to give maximum muscle definition.
How you doing? I'm Greg Valentino, and I have the biggest arms in the world. No bullshit. I've been training 28 years, and I earned these babies.
Dude, I trained 23 years natural without taking steroids. But when it came to the point where I was at the brink, at that level, I'm either going to take it and take myself to the next level. Is it worth it or not? The small man thing took over. I mean, I just felt like I have to get bigger. I have to, and that drive brought me to, you know, just do whatever it took. I wound up getting an infection, and when I got the infection, it starts off, you get a bad fever, the area gets red, soft, pussy. It was like a giant zit in there. It was just loaded with pus. And if you don't do something about it, you can wind up in a hospital and kill yourself, you know what I mean? It could kill you. What you're watching is, I had a hematoma in my arm, and I'm draining the blood. Now look, here you got the needle, look, it's going right into the bicep. Now look, now it's hanging out of the bicep.
Greg ended up in emergency surgery.
You know, a time of weakness. He says, listen, you trained so hard. He says, imagine what you'd look like if you took steroids the way you train. I said, well, I don't know. I never did this before. He says, yeah, just try a little bit. See, there's the mistake. There's no little bit. That's the problem with this stuff. People say it isn't addictive. It absolutely is absolutely addictive.
My personal and social life has suffered. Since I left school, I haven't really kept in contact with anyone from school. So yeah, you know, become more of a loner in that respect.
For some reason, maybe it has to do with competition. You just clamp down that capacity on yourself. You carry it too far, what it winds up doing is just cutting you off from the possibility of having a really fundamental reciprocal human relationship with somebody else.
So what?
You don't care about that?
No. And especially since I knew in bodybuilding and in competition, you have to kind of bury things temporarily. The way I dealt with it always is that right now I put it aside and then I deal with it later on, whenever that is, you know.
Currently, I weigh 180 pounds. My arms measure 17.5 inches. I have 46-inch chest, 31 waist, 26 thigh. Just like, if you know anything about bodybuilding, clearly not like pro bodybuilding proportions by far.
My body, well, you know, it's okay, but I get frustrated, you know, with the lack of progress, and I still feel like there's a lot of bigger guys in the gym, and I still see myself as that skinny kid, you know. I still feel small, and it's hard sometimes because I don't know what it's going to take for me to reach my goal. I wear baggy clothes because I don't really feel comfortable in showing my body. For example, you'll never catch me in shorts because I don't like my legs. So generally speaking, yeah, I dress to cover up my physique, not show it off.
In the fashion world, magazine ads sell pecs and abs as much as they do underwear. In sports, athletes who have been told for decades to avoid getting muscle-bound have learned better, because big means strong, and strong is good. Bodybuilding, once a subculture of maniacs, is now so much a part of our culture, it's hard to even remember when we thought lifting weights was weird.
It's just too much pressure, you know.